Thanks so much for joining today's webinar. I am excited to introduce our presenters. We have Shalaunda Reeves from the University of Florida and Camilo Echeverry from Labster, and let's get started. So to start, we're just going to go through some practical information. We are going to be using Slido for the Q&A session instead of using the control panel in the GoToWebinar interface. So please have your phone or your web browser handy and go to slido.com/Labster. And you can ask questions throughout the presentation. We might get to them. You can throughout, or we'll definitely get to them at the end of the presentation. Another really great feature of Slido is you're able to upvote the questions. So if you see a question that somebody has asked that you're also interested in, please go ahead and upvote that, so that will prioritize the questions as we address them. The webinar will be recorded and sent out probably most likely tomorrow. And then questions after the webinar, you can email myself, Hillary@labster.com. So the agenda for today's webinar, Camilo will be talking through what we're hearing from faculty and from students in the field. Also giving you a brief overview of virtual labs in the classroom. And then Shalaunda is going to be talking through the research that she's conducted at the University of Florida over the past few years of implementing virtual labs in the different science courses there. And then we'll go through the Q&A session following that. So to test out Slido, to get started, please go to slido.com, #Labster, and go ahead and enter which state or country you're currently teaching in. All right, people from all over. Awesome. So we have a good variety of states throughout the United States. And a couple from Canada. That's awesome. Well, welcome everyone. We're excited to jump right in. All right. So from here, I'm going to pass it over to Camilo, who will speak to what we're hearing from faculty and students.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining today. Hillary, do you want to go back one really quick?
Sure.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with Labster, we actually began as an outreach project at the University of Copenhagen in 2013. Our co-founder was actually a PhD student in charge of intro labs, but even before COVID-19, we've been working with instructors to help bring courses online or just enhance traditional courses. Currently, we're working with over 1,000 different institutions, so I just wanted to highlight to you guys a few things we're hearing every day. So one of the most common things we hear is faculty telling us that students are increasingly distracted and disengaged, seemingly more interested in what's happening on their phone than the lectures being delivered. A study by the University of Nebraska found that college students spend about 20% of their class time using devices for unrelated activity. We can only imagine this number is much higher for an online course. One thing we hear a lot is faculty telling us that their students are unprepared. According to a recent report, more than 500,000 college students in the US are required to take remedial courses. This causes students that fail these courses to switch majors. And it's likely much more than that due to the reporting inconsistencies. But if you just take a quick look at this slide, 40 to 60% of intended STEM majors switch away from the field. And we all know that there's been an increasing interest from students and pressure from administrators to move courses online. Science has been on the holdout for some time now. In fact, research shows that about 80% of science courses are still using traditional in-person lectures as their primary mode of instructions. And that's where we come in. I'm really excited to show you guys how this all works, but beforehand, I just wanted to get a sense of what type of courses everybody on the line actually teaches.
All right, yeah, so we will have one more Slido poll. If you can just go back on and enter into which subject, there we go. That's a chemistry, microbiome. All right. And for those that are choosing other, we do offer, we do cover more courses than what's on here. These were just the most popular. And Camilo will explain a little bit more in the next slide. And also I will include the link to our simulation library following up with the webinar recording. Okay, so I think chemistry is the winner with biology not too far behind, and then microbiome. All right, thanks. All right, and Camilo, I will pass it back to you.
Perfect. So just to show you guys what our platform looks like, the Labster platform is built out of gamified virtual labs that incorporate real-life experimental data and algorithms that allow students to change variables and observe outcomes as they would do in a real wet lab. So the current Labster platform contains over 100 different simulations. Each is actually a gamified case study covering 1 to 2 lectures and 1 lab practical session. And they're going to typically take your students just about 45 minutes to complete on average. Each simulation is built around the storyline that links the abstract theory and techniques covered to the real-world application. So as a student, I'm actually going to be required to complete every step that I would complete in a real wet lab. In doing so, they're actually learning the lab protocol beforehand. But instead of us just being a simple digitized version of a real lab, the platform allows me to learn in a way that's not possible in a real lab environment. Labster actually incorporates interactive cellular and molecular visualizations, multiple choice questions, the ability to change variables and make mistakes. And each of these simulations is actually graded, and then the platform is integrated into your institution's learning management system. So there's no need to manually grade these or change the grades or anything. It's all automatically done for you. And I'll let this video finish off.
All right.
So now that you've seen what the simulations look like, Labster can help your students even if you're teaching a traditional course in the future, which Shalaunda will actually talk to you later about. But when building a course of simulations, the most important considerations are: 1, focus on outcomes. What do you want students to achieve coming out of this course? And the second, you're not alone, and many others have done it before you. Tap into your networks and learn from the experience of others. You know, at the end of the day, Labster is going to be a great tool to help with your current needs, but also will be a great resource in your toolkit to enhance traditional courses while making sure we can transition back online quickly if needed. So with over 140 different simulations in our catalog, your students will have access to $1 million lab right in their browser. Our simulations cover standard safety protocols, allows them to have hands-on access to equipment in a safe, repeatable way, and will even give them a chance to see things on a cellular and molecular level that they might not even be able to see in a real lab. So in short, they have an environment where they are free to make mistakes and blow up our lab without damaging yours or costing you money for equipment or reagents, etc. So with all that information being said, we can help you overcome the 3 main challenges I discussed a few slides before. Through realistic simulations tied into real life stories, students achieve a stronger conceptual understanding of the topics being covered. Through our animated content and interactive quizzes, you're going to save time on grading and explaining complex concepts as we build this all into your learning management system. And all of our content is backed by research with an inquiry-based approach designed to allow students to learn by making mistakes, much like a traditional lab, which should give them as close to a real-life experience as possible. And I quickly want to highlight what the actual research is currently telling us. So if you look on the left-hand side, this is research done by Nature Biotechnology, What it's saying is there's a 101% increase in learning outcomes compared to traditional teaching alone. So when we combine traditional teaching and Labster, this is where we're able to provide the biggest benefit for your students. And on the right-hand side, CSU Northridge decided to move one of their introductory biology courses online. It serves over 2,000 students per year. Before Labster, they had about an 80% pass rate. After Labster, we were able to increase that to 95%. This means we're able to help over 300 students pass this course alone. So how about using Labster as a pre-lab exercise? Well, a recent study at the University of Glasgow that compared the use of virtual labs in place of traditional pre-lab demonstration by instructors showed that there were no significant differences between the two groups in terms of their lab scores, knowledge of microbiology, intrinsic motivation to study microbiology, as well as self-confidence in the field of microbiology. This has allowed Glasgow University to redesign their lab courses to maximize the limited time available to students in these labs. And a 2016 study from BMC Medicine highlighted clearly that Labster's virtual lab simulations improve knowledge, motivation, and self-efficacy of students of all knowledge levels. However, the most significant impact was for the low knowledge students, and as a result, the knowledge gap was dramatically decreased across the cohort.
All right, thanks so much, Camilo. Now I'm going to, without further ado, pass it off to Shalaunda, who will be speaking to the research she's conducted all the way since 2017, and she's just wrapping that up right now. And the research covers courses in biology, chemistry, and engineering, and each covering about 30 to 40 students per course. So Shalaunda, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So my research really looks at this unpacking the student experience and really moving beyond the comparison. Most of the research out there regarding virtual labs is very evaluative. It's, comparing, is it better? Is it worse than a physical laboratory? And I really look at trying to move beyond that and looking at for whom and under what conditions virtual laboratories could work for students. And currently with COVID-19, our conditions have changed. So what conditions could virtual laboratories work? Well, if you're required to move to an online setting. And so our next, thank you. So another thing that I really focus on is the varied experience offered by virtual laboratories. So students are able to engage in a virtual environment akin to a practicing scientist. They have a contextualized learning environment, and then they also get a mastery learning experience because they are able to continually work on a particular part until they have mastered it. Learning objectives are very key in understanding how virtual environments can work in your course, because what you have students do in a virtual laboratory should line up with what you have as your learning objectives for that course. My research has also looked at expectancy value beliefs and how students are motivated or their motivational beliefs regarding virtual laboratories, and then also looking at virtual laboratories as providing access to students, which at this point in our life, that's what we have to do. We have to provide access. So one of my research projects was looking at increasing capacity for residential courses by using virtual laboratories. And I used a convenient samples of junior and senior students, which they offered a unique perspective because they already had previous experience in a physical laboratory. And so we felt like this was a great group of students to use to see how they would engage in a virtual laboratory if it was introduced to residential students who were not typically used to working in a fully online environment. And then our comparison group, UF Online, has a fully online course, and so we compared them. A quasi-experimental subject design was used, so we looked at overall performance, time with the virtual lab, and then in-lab performance. So next, we have our increasing our results. And so what we see here is that there was really no significant difference, which aligns with what Clark 83 says, is that when you compare online to a virtual environment, you usually have no significant difference because you're really not comparing apples to apples. It's really apples to oranges because you have a change of modality. Student performance was their overall course grade, or not their overall, their test scores. And so there was not a significant difference between residential students using the virtual lab and online students who had used virtual laboratories. So what that led us to think was that we really needed to go beyond this comparison, as I said before, and look really at motivational beliefs. And so we looked at students' task value. And so our participants were a convenient sample of, again, junior and senior level students who were majoring in biology, microbiology, zoology, and we did a single case pre-post design. And we looked at their expectancy value. And really what it's asking is, do you value this task in a virtual environment just like you value a task in a physical environment? So we also did a system usability test, used the system usability scale to see if there was a relationship with the student's ability to use the virtual environment and their value that they found in the environment. And so what we saw was that, again, students did not have a significant difference in how they valued a physical environment versus the virtual environment. The only thing that students did have was a higher cost was associated to the virtual environment versus the physical environment, which pretty much says that as seniors moving on to a career in science, that they did feel like there may be something they were missing, a cost um, that they were giving up in a sense because they were using the virtual environment. But as being in a fully online course, as some of you may have to do in the fall, or some of you definitely will be doing in the summer, you see that students did find just as much value in the virtual environment as they did in the physical environment, which I think will help as they matriculate on. So in essence, what I think a lot of you really have concerns about is, are my students going to be able to learn? And I have students that I've used in chemistry, and they've used the titration virtual lab, they've used the pipetting virtual lab, and then the Lewis structure, and they really found those to be beneficial. One thing I felt the virtual labs did a great job of, according to the students and what I'm seeing in my results for the qualitative studies that I've done, is that students really feel like the virtual lab allows them to get more understanding than they would in a physical laboratory. They feel like some of the pressure to move quickly in the lab and be done and get out and not be the last one left completing their lab, it was great help for them in their learning. They felt that the virtual facilitator that is embedded in the virtual lab did a great job of explaining the steps to them. And then the virtual lab also understands, or it recognizes when students are stuck. And so it offers feedback. It says, hey, it looks like you're having trouble. And then it offers them explanation to kind of guide them through that. So they do get a guided learning experience that you technically, that students felt, I should say, that they would not get in a physical laboratory because they only have one TA to the group of students that they had. So virtual labs do offer students, according to the research that I've done, a lot of benefits um, that will help them, especially this summer and in the fall, in their transition.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shalaunda. Really exciting that this research is wrapping up. And congratulations, you're graduating in August and moving on to the University of Michigan. So
Yes, thank you.
very exciting. Okay, so without further ado, I think we're going to jump into questions. I know there are a lot on the line. And again, go to slido.com and then enter the hashtag Labster. if you have any questions for Shalaunda, myself, or Camilo. And you're also, as you can see here, able to upvote the questions. So we can be sure to get to the ones with the most interest. So right now, I think this is for Camilo. Are the labs ADA compliant? Do they work on phones and tablets?
So they currently don't work on phones and tablets. This is something that we are working on in the future. So it's something to look out for if that's something that you specifically need. But currently we're accessible on most computers. Typically accessibility on computers don't need any crazy software downloads for this. But just in terms of user experience and touch sensitivity of it, we're not accessible on phones or tablets.
Okay, great. And then I think, so also the cost, Camilo, I'll pass that on to you. I know it's varying depending.
So in terms of costs, there's a few factors that go into really determining the cost for your course specifically. It's going to depend how many simulations you want, at the scale you're looking to use Labster, and really what your overall goal is with Labster. So I'm happy to give anybody more insight on pricing and an individual basis.
Yeah, we'll be following up after the webinar for this. And then also for the simulations, so I will include the link to our simulation library, but also we'll be following up following the webinar to show you some of the lab examples there, and we can give you access to the faculty resources page after that. Are your chemistry lab simulations accredited by the ACS? I can take this one. So currently with the COVID-19 crisis, they are accrediting them. They are expecting to take that away once the crisis is over, but we are continually working and I would say lobbying to get them to accept virtual labs and accredit them, because as Shalaunda showed in her research is showing that these are very valuable learners. All right. So Shalaunda, do you have any results or comments on how Labster may help the equity gap in STEM, chemistry in particular?
So for chemistry, I know that at the University of Florida in the introductory chemistry course, they do not teach students how to pipette. There is an assumption that students will get it as they go along. However, if students come from schools, high schools, let's say, where they are not exposed to pipetting, where they may not have those type of resources at their school, um, Labster offers pretty much a step-by-step opportunity for students to kind of go through the lab, understand how a pipette works, understand the nuances of disposing the tip, putting on a new tip. And so, again, like I said earlier, some of the pressures I believe that students face being in a laboratory, a physical laboratory, um, a lot of my qualitative research has shown that students are feeling less pressure because they can receive as much help as they need. They don't feel as if there is a lot of um, looking around trying to see who's finishing, or they don't feel like they're being imposing themselves upon the TA because they are asking too many questions. And so, in terms of allowing students to move at their own pace, get as much remediation as possible available in the simulation through the theory button, through the virtual facilitator, through repetitive actions of being able to continually do the steps or the lab multiple times. I think that provides students with a sense of mastery level experience, which we know mastery level experience is attributed to self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is attributed to achievement. And so it, I can't say there's a direct correlation, but I believe that there may be some relationship or some influence.
Okay, great, thank you. So can faculty test simulations to determine if they are right for the course? So these two kind of go in line with each other. Yes, absolutely. We like to meet a member of the Labster team. Will connect with you after the webinar just to review the simulations, and then we can give you access to the full faculty resource page where you can test the simulations for yourself. All right. Is there research on introductory level students who don't show up to a virtual lab already having basic lab skills from in-person coursework? So Shalaunda, I think this is kind of in your research where not everyone is on the same level entering.
So this is kind of like the equity, I'm assuming. So I have not read personally about students who do not show up to a virtual lab, but I do know that students found that the virtual lab, even though they did have the basic skills, I mean, if we want to be honest, it's a lot of people. I've talked to many professors about this, that especially in chemistry, it takes a while for students to master certain concepts. Like I keep bringing up pipetting because that was the first lab that I used, because faculty members said that by the time they get to senior year, they're still not mastering or don't understand how to work in a pipette. So virtual labs allow students to kind of get um, that repetitive um, understanding where they just keep doing it until they get it. And so I'm not really sure about what happens if they don't show up to the virtual lab, but I do know that there is some students who still, even though they have a basic understanding, the application and understanding it on a broader level outside of just the rote procedures that you do in a chemistry course or any course, any lab course, is always helpful.
Okay, great. This looks great. We need a solution. Oh, it's all switching right now. So how do students learn fundamental skills, pipetting, loading gels, aseptic techniques, titrations to perform on these skills in later physical settings?
And that's transfer. So transfer is a skill transfer from a virtual environment into a physical environment, is widely studied even in the military and hospitals. And so it's really hard to say that if I learn how to, let's make it even simpler, tie a shoe in a virtual environment, that I'll be able to tie a shoe in a physical environment. But what virtual labs are really offering them is the concept of understanding, okay, that there are steps to pipetting, and that before I go from one liquid to another, I need to change my tip. And, yes, they'll still have to, and even in the virtual lab, they have to put the pipette against the beaker to make sure they're not getting air in or out. But that, again, I can't say for certain that students will be a master pipetter by the time they walk into a physical laboratory after doing the virtual laboratory. But I will tell you, because a lot of students, even though they call it tedious, but it's really the repetition that they're referring to, is that they understand the steps. And at the end of the day, especially when you talk about what you're really looking for, and that goes back to what I said earlier about having learning objectives. If your learning objectives is students have a conceptual understanding of pipetting, then a virtual lab will be able to provide you that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see, this looks great, and we need a solution for our summer classes coming up really soon. Is there still time? Yes, there absolutely is. Send an email to hillary@labster.com, and I will put you in touch with the right person to get you set up today. All right. House pricing done. Camilo already kind of touched on this. There is different levels of pricing depending on if we've done system-wide deals, institution deals, student pay deals or just for classes. So we will be following up with you to talk through your specific need, and we can give you pricing then. Can you elaborate more about assessment? What's the level of control the faculty have regarding assessments? I would say either Shalaunda or Camilo can answer this one.
I could take it if you want. In terms of really the assessments on there, they each have built-in quizzes ranging from about 10 to 20. And throughout these, they can't actually go forward with the simulation until they get these right. Currently, you can't customize those actual questions, but you're able to download basically everything that's asked throughout the simulation, the media, everything, and have a better idea of what they're being asked. So if you wanted to customize those and outside of the simulation, essentially give them to your students, that's something that I've seen professors do in the past.
All right, great, thank you. Are there labs for upper level chemistry courses such as organic chemistry and quantitative analysis? Yes, we do have a number of organic chemistry simulations. And again, I'll link to our simulation library where you can look through based on subject what simulations we have. All right, I was informed that we can eliminate the quiz questions. Is it all or none, or can I choose which questions to eliminate? Camilo, I'll pass that over to you.
This isn't something that I'm actually aware if they're able to take these questions off. I know that you can do these for completion grades. So if that's something that you'd want to do and not really go based off how they're doing on these quizzes, that's something that you have accessibility to. But just in terms of having them really do the simulations, make sure you're able to track them and have somewhat of accountability that they're doing these. My understanding is these can't be eliminated currently.
Yeah, and I do know that we are coming up with the ability to edit the quiz questions. So keep an eye out for that, but it's currently not yet. All right. Virtual labs don't seem to be representative of the diversity seen in colleges and universities. No Black or brown faces. How do you plan to address this? So we actually have done a lot of work in this area. Camilo, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I was really just going to say that we've done quite a lot of updates in the past. In the past year, we've really changed up a lot of things that have to do with our lab. We've added more simulations. We have touched upon this topic that you're specifically asking about. So depending on the simulation you're actually playing, it's going to have different, essentially different people in the lab that are going to be of different diversity. So yeah, that's something that we have already worked on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and we're always continuing to improve. It's definitely a priority for us this year, and as we work towards being more and more compliant. All right. Can students work together in a collaborative manner to help increase communication and sharing ideas? I know I've heard of professors using Labster in the classroom and where students break out into groups, and as a group they complete the simulation. I don't know, Shalaunda, if you have any other experience within the courses at UFL?
No, not for collaboration, because you can't work, so students would have to work on one computer in order for it to be collaborative. I just want to be clear for the person who's asking the question, is that you can't, it's not like Sims or anything where everyone can work in one environment together from different devices.
Yeah. All right. Is there a way to select parts of a simulation instead of the whole? So I can take this one on. Currently, there is not a way to edit out the parts that you would like, but we are in the process of exploring mini simulations that just showcase parts of the whole simulation, and expect those to be coming out sometime in the fall. So we look forward to announcing that. Is there a dashboard to review how the class is doing as a whole? Camilo, I'll pass that over to you.
Yeah, there definitely is. You're going to have basically your own login and password for your course. So you're going to be able to customize a few things of how it's created and everything. But yes, you're going to have an overview of every student and how they're doing in the class. So is there specific metrics you want to see, like questions that your students are getting wrong and how many times they're getting it wrong? You're going to have accessibility to quite a few things, but this is going to be integrated into your learning management system if that's something you want. So you're also going to have all the grades on there for students to see and as well for you to see.
All right, thank you. When will you be adding more chemistry labs? We're consistently working on building out our simulation catalog. I don't have an exact date for chemistry labs, but I do know we have, I think, at least a couple organic chemistry coming out within the next couple of months. So keep an eye out for that. All right. Do you offer any materials for non-biology majors? Camilo, do you want to speak to our principal's biology
Yeah,
package?
yeah, especially for biology, we have a big variety of different subjects as well as a principles package. So if there's just very basic concepts that you need your students to know, that's something that we could accommodate for also. But we also have, for majors, non-majors, more advanced topics. So it's customizable to how you run your course and the specific concepts that you actually want your students to understand. But yeah, we work typically a lot with non-biology major courses. So we're definitely gonna have enough content for most of the things you want on there.
Do students do the experiments on their own time or in a specific time? So I can take this, and then if Shalaunda or Camilo, you want to add on,
Sure.
yes, they are absolutely able to do this on their own time. It really depends on faculty and how you present it in your syllabi. But yeah, one of the great things about Labster is students are able to play the simulation as many times as it takes in order for them to really grasp the concept that they're learning. Shalaunda or Camilo, do you want to add on to that, or?
No, it's pretty much flat out. Yeah, we give them the ability to retry this and essentially get the concept done as many times as they need. So they're not specifically constrained to a time.
Okay. What technical support do you provide? Camilo?
Yeah, so we definitely don't want adding another resource like this to be a headache for anybody. We have teacher support, we have instructor support, we have a chatbot on our websites, and basically everything is going to be in the actual simulation for students. If they run into any technical issues, and our team is working around the clock to get to all these issues that students are having, but typically they're resolved in a fairly quick manner, and we don't see too many, too many things going unresolved.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work in the last couple of months to increase that support too, with everyone going online. Do any labs include elements of debugging issues / overcoming difficulties? So we have a chat bot on our site where there's always somebody manning that and is able to help students or faculty with those debugging issues. And we also have quite an extensive help guide on our site as well that addresses some of the most common ones. Furthermore, we have a quick onboarding for students as well as faculty, so to address best practices before starting the simulation to ensure that they have the best experience possible. Can this platform be integrated with Blackboard for assigning virtual lab assignments? Camilo.
Yeah, this can definitely be fully integrated with Blackboard. We take care of it and send it over to your IT department, and it's pretty much a fairly simple process. But we also do Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Moodle. So we do a variety of different ones that most universities, colleges are currently using.
Can students buy Labster directly? Milo.
Yes. if they're enrolled in a course, there's a different, I guess there's different ways that we can incorporate this into a course, whether it's the institution paying for it or student paying for it. So just like they're purchasing a textbook or any other resource, they can purchase this as well, whether it's through your bookstore, directly through us. So yeah, that's something that we work with quite a lot.
If you purchase site license, will you have access to all new simulations added during the year? Camilo?
Yeah, I mean, if you're purchasing a site license, you're going to have access to all of our simulations, whether we update it or not. So if we do update and we have new ones, you're definitely going to have access to it. But typically we come out with 5 or 10 at a time, so it's not, you know, one every week or something like that. So we are going to inform everybody once we come out with our new packages and specific simulations on there. But yeah, you're going to have access to all of them.
Okay, what about control measures to limit the number of students gathering in groups to execute virtual labs to maintain high performance equal to face-to-face labs? Shalaunda, do you want to take a stab at this one?
So in face-to-face labs, they typically work with partners anyway. They have a lab partner, and then if students are remote, I mean, to really say that you can control when they are actually accessing it. However, the questions that they're being asked as they're guided through the check for understanding, the answer options are different for everyone. So they would, and when I say answer options, I mean which letter it is. So they would have to know. So you can't write like A, B, C. So there are some mechanisms, I guess, but nothing that's really going to stop students from working together.
Mhm. Okay. Is this program students download or does it require internet connection while running the simulation? It does require an internet connection. There is no software that you have to download for this. I was able to use 6 of the labs in my exercise physiology class. Great. And ask students their reaction. Who do I forward those to? You can forward those to me, Hillary, Hilary, at labster.com. I would love to see those and share them with the team. Are there any nursing specific labs, clinical type simulations? Camilo, again, we'll be sending you the list of simulations. We do have a good number of microbiology labs. Camilo, I don't know if you want to add on to.
Yeah, we do work quite a lot with nursing majors, specifically for the prerequisites they have with microbiology, GOB. For more advanced topics, we might not have the exact content you're looking for, but for the overall general concepts that they have to know, we do have quite a lot in the microbiology GOB field. So we're going to send those over after the call, so you'll be able to kind of get a little bit of a glimpse if we have what you're looking for.
Okay. Do you have self-correction mode that gives tips to improve on student performance during the simulation, say improving use of pipette for practice? As I mentioned earlier, the students are able to play the simulation as many times as they'd like. With the quiz questions, if they answer a question wrong, they're directed to the theory page where they can read more about the task at hand, and then they can answer the quiz or have a second stab at the quiz question as well. If they don't perform a step or they perform a step incorrectly, then yes, like they're not able to move forward with the simulation. They have to keep trying until they perform the correct step.
And the virtual facilitator as well offers explanation, because again, like it does kind of detect if it's take you a long time or many attempts to complete something. So they'll explain to you what's happening, and then kind of guide you through it. So that will kind of help if students did feel that they were stuck in a sense.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, are you going to show each platform you offer? I'm interested in hybrid sample, please. So we don't have different platforms. It's one virtual lab simulation, but professors, faculty, teachers use us in different ways. The hybrid class, like they may lecture first and then the students go home and can do the virtual lab in their own time. Labster also works great for pre-lab and post-lab trials as well, or testing them out to help really cement in what they learned in the wet lab. So there's all different ways to really work virtual labs into your course. It's not only just for online only classes. Let's see, do any of labs include lab problems that students need to overcome? Yes, absolutely. We have quizzes throughout. Camilo, do you want to speak to those a bit?
Yeah, I mean, including the quizzes, there's also, each of them they're put in a real world story. You know, they're presented a real world problem essentially to give them kind of the actual application, how this would apply to them. So they're presented a problem and they go back to the lab and actually solve it. So that's one way, but also the quiz questions is something that complements that really well. Really, they'll be able to see exactly how they're answering this and a variety of different ways, but those are two of the ways that we have lab problems in there.
Awesome. There are so few physics and astronomy departments that use virtual labs. How would your platform for physics majors train to be experimentalists? We do have physics labs. Again, I'll be sending the library of simulations. If you want to check it out right now, it's labster.com/simulations, and you can choose the specific subject, and from there, we'll show you the relevant simulations. Is it possible as an instructor to log in and shadow a student while they're attempting to complete a lab? Could the instructor provide live feedback? I know a lot of instructors have the students play while in the classroom, in the physical classroom, and there's TAs to help them along the way. I don't know, Shalaunda or Camilo, have you heard of this happening in the online format?
So you
No,
can see.
sorry, go
Oh,
ahead, Shalom.
sorry. Oh no, I was going to say. So the dashboard does offer you the questions as students are answering them, and then you can see their answers, and then you can see if they got it wrong. And so it's constantly updating, but there isn't a live feedback where you can send them like a chat box or something.
Okay, and Camilo, did you want to add anything, or did Shalaunda cover it?
That was really what I was going to say. I guess not a way to see exactly what they're doing in the lab, but you can see kind of the results, how many times they had to answer a question, how long they took. So there's some metrics in there that you're able to really track certain things if that's what you're looking for.
All right. Labs for power, force, and energy.
Yeah, if you look under our physics, you should see some for example, conservation of energy. We have forces and free body diagrams. So there's going to be some that are going to touch up on those.
Does Labster integrate with online course packages like Canvas? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Camilo?
Yeah, we kind of like I said in a few questions back, we fully integrated with Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle, D2L, and we're consistently updating what we're integrated for. But yeah, Canvas is one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, and Moodle as well.
Yep.
Have you considered any labs for forensic science? I know some can be applied to this. So I believe we might have some within our catalog that is relevant for forensic science. We don't have a specific package for that. Any quizzes supplied? So yes, I believe we touched on this as well. There's quizzes throughout the simulation where the students have to go through and answer, and there's a theory package that they're able to refer to learn more about those concepts.
Mhm.
Some courses may want to use virtual labs as a supplement to the standard face-to-face lab courses. Can this virtual platform be combined with regular face-to-face physical labs? Yes, I believe I just touched on this a couple of questions ago. Camilo, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, we have some research I discussed a little bit earlier on, so I'm happy to send that over to
Yeah.
to you, Justin, to get an idea of that. But yeah, that's one of the most popular ways that we do integrate into these courses, kind of like Hillary said, as a pre-lab supplement, way to reinforce some concepts in a lecture, or hybridizing the course. Things in that sense is something that we see a lot.
I also want to say, so some laboratories, especially in chemistry, like Lewis structures, where students, I mean, there's not necessarily um, a what the students consider a actual lab. They're really designing the structures using balls and sticks. And so they found the virtual lab to be a great supplement for that particular subject. Something like titration as well was considered great supplement for the face-to-face because they were using instruments that they wouldn't be able to use in the virtual lab, I mean, in the physical laboratory. So um, faculty that I've worked with have found that using both, and students also agreed very much like Camilo said, is that using both was very successful for students. They were able to walk away with a greater understanding of the concepts.
Great. All right. How do we get started with using Labster in the classroom? If you want, you can email myself. It's Hillary, HILARY, @labster.com. And I will get you in touch with somebody this afternoon. If not, we will definitely be following up with attendees later after this to see if there's any more information that we can provide you. I know a lot of people have been asking to see specific simulations, and that's where we'll be able to do that. If students are provided multiple attempts to master a technique, how does that influence quiz scores? Are quiz questions one attempt only? I know there's many different ways that faculty use this. Shalaunda, do you want to speak to how they did at UFL, if there was different ways that they assess the students?
So the multiple attempts, it's really based on the mastery learning is trying. It's continuously completing a particular step, procedure, task until you really understand. So again, the quiz questions do kind of change orders. Students are prompted and given additional information if they have something wrong. And then the virtual facilitator also provides feedback in the sense of why the answer they have is incorrect. And so it says, oh, okay, you chose this answer. That I can see why you chose that. This is what this does. However, choose again. And so the quiz questions are really, again, it goes back to your learning objectives. If you're using this as a assessment, then yes, you would only want students to have one attempt. However, if you're using this more as a learning experience, a class, homework in a sense, or a class assignment, then the multiple attempts is how they gain mastery. It wouldn't be a one and done. The questions are just guided, um, checking for understanding. So it's not an end of, at the very end, you get all of your quiz questions. They're embedded as the students go through. And so you get kind of oh, okay, I understand this. There's a check for understanding, and now I'm moving on.
All right, thank you for that. Could you please show a simulation with assessment and feedback? So again, we'll be following up, and a member of the Labster team can walk you through the teacher dashboard to show that. How do we get started? Again, we'll be following up with you following the webinar. Are students able to complete the same lab multiple times? Yes, I believe we've covered that. if a department chooses to use the student pay model, do you have to sign a contract for multiple semesters? Camilo.
So if this is a course that does run every semester, and you just want to, instead of changing your syllabus every semester or, adding new resources, we see that a lot. We'll see that essentially no one's obviously charged until these courses start. But, if you sign up for the next 3 semesters, we don't have to go through procurement every time. But essentially, no, you're not tied to anything. If you want to just try it for 1 semester, just as courses are transitioning online, you're more than welcome to do that. But if it's something that you're looking to adopt long term, we can get everything basically settled up, essentially with one agreement. But it really depends on how you're looking to use Labster in the future.
All right. Can these labs be used for high school courses or only college level courses? Yes, absolutely. We have a principals level package for biology, chemistry, and physics. So 3 individual packages that were built for intro level courses, as well as high school level courses. So again, we'll be sending you the simulation catalog, but look for the principal level packages. And those are the simulations that we created just for that level. All right. Yay, Shalaunda, you are going to be at University of Michigan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think this wraps it up. We're getting close to the top of the hour. So I want to thank everybody for coming, for joining us today. And we hope that this was informative for you. And again, we will be following up with a recording to this webinar, as well as a number of different links to help you dive a bit deeper into Labster. If you have any questions, please email me. Even if it's for Shalaunda, I will pass it on to her and get you an answer for that. My name is Hillary, Hilary. You can email me at hillary@labster.com. The follow-up email will also be coming from myself, so you can just respond to that as well, and I will get you any answers to any questions that you have. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shalaunda, and congratulations again on wrapping up your graduate degree. Huge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Super exciting. And thank you, Camilo. Very informative.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.